Welcome to Load the Box. Football is back. It's here. And I'm back too. I'm not super sick anymore. Jordan, you kept the ship afloat without me. Thoroughly enjoyed your quarterback preview, the college QBs of the post Kirk era. Me as a Kirk Cousins defender, I was a little wary of your intro there, but it was an awesome episode. I honestly, it got me excited for the next era. But there's more important things to talk about.
Absolutely.
There is a football game on Sunday, and also one of our favorite Victor the Viking lookalikes got a big contract extension.
I love it. Yeah, I think that playing the playing the quarterback video into the TJ extension was kind of my plan. So I was planning on a little bit of Cousins slando, no matter yo health, yo availability. Um, but looking at the Hawkinson deal, let's dive into it. I think that, and this was my second note, and I'll just jump to it. This is the cleanest way to break up with Kirk Cousins. Spend all of his money. And then whenever it comes time to pay him, be like, we just, we pay JJ and we pay TJ and we just signed Metellus and Smith's still on the team and Daniil and just spend all of the money so that way there's nothing left in the bank to pay Kirk Cousins, a top 5-ish, I'm assuming is what he's going to end up fetching contract after this season. And I even put the little analogy in here of, it's like whenever your wife starts talking about going out on a Saturday night during like a big college football game and you're just like, honey, we really need to save money. Like we just can't swing that this weekend, like Notre Dame plays Ohio State this weekend. We can't make this happen. So that was one of my takeaways. The other takeaway is, and I may have mentioned this in the quarterbacks video, I do think wholeheartedly, and it's nothing against Cousins, I do think that this class is so stacked that the Vikings are going to get the QB of the future in it. They're going to have some toys to play with.
Yeah.
I wrote down that, this isn't going to be Christian Pondo, who had Percy Halvin was his best receiver. Vasante Shenko was probably his second best option. Mike Jenkins was apparently a Vikings wide receiver that I don't remember very well. And then Adrian Peterson was obviously the entire offense at that point of the Vikings history. So we're talking about a quarterback coming in with, Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Sheldon
Yeah.
Addison. And I'm not going to go through the entire list. But
And the skill position players today also are just so much better. Like as a general rule, most teams have multiple guys who can really break it. And it's totally different than like in the past where it was like you felt like, maybe a handful of teams had a game-changing wide receiver. Now every team has at least one, it feels like.
yeah.
So the talent is just so much better. People are shiftier and quicker and stronger and faster and all that. So
Yeah, and I think it's
um
also worth noting that TJ did get a massive contract. He's the highest paid tight end in the NFL history. So I think that puts to bed some of the are they lowballing Justin Jefferson, concerns? Or are they not going to make Jefferson? They're going to, I think, bend the knee to Justin Jefferson. And I think reports now are kind of, it's not really, how much is Justin going to make? Is he going to be the highest paid non QB? Now the conversation with Jefferson is it a 3-year deal or is it a 5-year deal? And I think the Vikings would obviously prefer it be a longer deal, so that way every year that gets added, every year after the 3-year mark, he's just going to go further and further into good value for the position. But in Jefferson's camp, he can get paid in 3 years, and then, I'm only 26 years old. Oh, I guess at that point he'd be 28. I'm only 28 years old.
yep.
I'd like more money because I'm still in my prime, and so he can kind of double
Yep.
up if he signs it that way. So I think that's what the stick is at this point. I think there's been a lot of conversation on this show and others about, is he waiting to see what happens with Cousins? Is he, does he want to play my personal tinfoil hat theory that I don't think I've made public, but is he trying to reunite with Jamal Chase and Joe Burrow secretly, so he's just telling the Vikings no? All of these conspiracy theories I think can be put to bed. I think he just wants to double dip, and the Vikings are trying to get him to not double dip. So I think it'll be done. I think that this is all going to be null and void by the first game. I think it'll get done on Saturday.
I think you're probably right. That's kind of what all the signs are pointing to as well. Just from what we're hearing from reporters and what we're hearing from the team, it's just sort of this feel of like it's gonna get done. It's just kind of like the Hawkinson thing. There's things that you have to work through, T's and C's that just have to be worked on. So I think he's going to be signing long term. It'd be silly for him not to, like we've talked about with the franchise tag thing and all that. So he even said it so much today. He said, I would like to have my contract signed, but it's up to them. I think meaning the team and then his agents to get the work done. So it's uh it's in his interest. It's in his best interest to stay here. I think he will stay here long term. I think he's going to sign the contract. It's frankly, by the time this video comes out, he might have already signed it. It's that short term here, so
Speaking
it's
of
not really much to worry about.
Speaking
Go
of
ahead.
signing contracts, by the way, this is kind of breaking news, and this is the fun thing. We're doing this show while the Lions are on. Breaking news. I don't know if you saw Joe Burrow extended.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, yep, Joe Burrow.
How breaking
I just
is
got
that?
one of my buddies just texted me and said Joe Burrow officially rich, and ESPN is now dinging my iPad telling me the news. $275 million over 5 seasons, making him the highest paid
Wow.
man in football history.
Wow.
Not
All right.
total contract, but just on a per year basis. That whole
Annual
thing. So,
value.
yeah. So
That's wild.
yeah, that's crazy, man. Kirk Cousins is going to sign somewhere next year, and I don't want to get on the whole thing, but he's going to sign somewhere for like not that much money, but like
No, I mean the
he's
thing
going to
with
get a
Kirk
lot of
Cousins
money.
is yes, but he's 35. So the difference with him and Joe Burrow is 10 years, and so
Right.
it's yes, he will sign somewhere for probably a healthy chunk of change, but it's not going to be north of $50, $50 million a year. But it's also probably not going to be south of 40, considering
Right.
what Daniel Jones got. So it's going to be
Yeah,
healthy.
it's going to be fun. It's going to be next offseason is going to be a blast. But yeah, so Joe Burrow, congratulations. I'm hoping I want to do one. I've never done a show and had like breaking news, Vikings sign huge contract, and I want one so bad. Like I want Jefferson to sign while we're on this topic. But I guess are you TJ? Congratulations. Sorry that I called you ugly
Yeah.
during training camp. That was just
rude.
me. It was rude, and I'm one to talk, right? But like, he's a beautiful man. He looks like the logo. Are you good with beautiful TJ Hawkinson and his fat wallet?
Yeah, I know I know that we posted some videos of our just initial thoughts on the deal late last week, but just really quickly for those who didn't see that, there was some general sort of consensus among at least the Twitter fans that there was a little bit too much money given to TJ Hawkinson and that it was an overpay. I'm here to tell you that it was not an overpay at all. He was worth every penny. And, TJ Hawkinson was a godsend to the Vikings offense, who was already humming pretty good by the trade deadline, but they got even better when they acquired him. And he became, Cousins' second favorite target easily. And at the end of the season, he was second in all tight ends in targets, receptions, and yards, and fifth in touchdowns. So really only Travis Kelce was better than him on all those metrics. And so being the highest paid kind of actually makes sense considering that contract value go up every year just because of, inflation and increased demand. So there's really no surprise from me that he got this bag. It's from a Vikings fan perspective, sure, you'd like him to make a little bit less money so somebody else can make a little bit more money and you could maybe sign somebody else. But
Yeah.
it's the way these things work, and he was worth it. And with how important tight ends are in the 2023 and beyond NFL iteration that we are in, you got to have one. It's
Yeah.
not just it's not like we're not living in the world where Jim Kleinsasser is a suitable tight end. It's not what it used to be. And no disrespect to Jim Kleinsasser, but like you need to have a threat on the outside playing tight end. And yes, having a top 5 one is not necessarily a requirement, but when you have one in your building, you keep them.
Yeah, and
So
I kind
it's
of went
worth the money.
over. I kind of went over in an earlier episode. You look at the AFC and NFC championship games last season and the tight ends that played in that game, and the Bengals were really the only one that didn't have like a top tight end in the league, and they still had Hayden Hurst, and he went and signed not a TJ Hawkinson contract, but he did get a slightly smaller bag, just with, I believe, Carolina. Don't hold me to that. But he went elsewhere and got signed for decent money. And he was a contributor to that team. So I think really the tight ends, like you kind of brought up Jim Kleins also, and he's my favorite Viking of all time. But tight ends went from being basically smaller tackles that occasionally got like goal line carries. They went from being that to like being, second options or being legitimate weapons on the team. And so I think whenever you talk about the Vikings offense, we're very fortunate that we have Justin Jefferson as the 1, but I think TJ Hawkinson's the 2 right now. And I know that
Yep.
everyone has high hopes for Jordan Addison, and KJ Osborne has gotten better every year he's been in the league, so he's, probably going to be really good this season. But TJ Hawkinson is on pace to, I'm assuming Kelsey's not going to do this forever. And I think he's like 35 or something. So, like, maybe Hawkinson is considered the best tight end in the league in 2 years just by default because Kelsey left. And Kelsey's basically not a tight end.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm a big fan of it. He's young. He's athletic. I think that I just do think the Vikings are setting up for life after Cousins, and that's just extra money almost that you can play with in the years to come, and you spend it. You don't want to not have I'm sure the owners would love to not have a quarterback making a bunch of money and also not pay anybody else on the team. But if you're not paying the quarterback, you have to pay everybody else because you have to support the young quarterback. And so I hate to turn TJ Hawkinson's great day into me. It sounds like I'm salivating over life without Coke, and that's not what it is. It's just what I see happening in front of my eyes, and I think it's worth talking about. But I'll talk about TJ Hawkinson later in the show, and I think that's a bit of a spoiler for some things that we're going to talk about with the Tampa Bay game. But we want to get our record predictions on the record.
One just last quick news thing regarding extensions. Fan favorite, team favorite, my favorite, Josh Metellus signed a 2-year extension today. I think it's up to $13 million with incentives and all that. I think, maybe only like 6 or 8 of it is guaranteed or something. But really, look up the contract details. Don't trust me. It's a success story for a guy that was a 6th round pick, got cut his first year, made his way back to the team, ended up winning Special Teams Player of the Year his rookie season, and has slowly, made a name for himself on this team. He's now a captain. He's an awesome player to root for. One of the team's favorites. You can tell all the coaches love him. Really happy for Josh. He's going to be a big contributor on the Vikings defense and, of course, special teams this season.
Josh Metellus, it was a 2-year, $13 million extension with only $6 million guaranteed.
Okay.
I think he's a really good guy to have. His play on the field is good. I'm not knocking his play on the field, but I think you look in training camp, and me personally, I feel like there would be days where it would be difficult to be motivated towards the end of training camp if I knew I was not long for this team. And Metellus is a guy who didn't make the 53's rookie year, and he got put on a practice squad, and then he started doing some special teams work, and he's kind of worked his way up from practice squad to special teams to now under Brian Flores. People are assuming he's going to be a huge part of this defense, and he's going to play a lot of snaps in a lot of games. So Metellus getting his money is really good. I really liked, he got asked a question in like his post contract signing interview that every player has to do. And someone asked him, now that you've gotten your first, big contract or semi big contract, what are you gonna, do you have anything that you want to spend the money on? Have you had your eye on anything? And he said, no, I just kind of am happy I can look at my wife and my baby and, kind of know that I took care of them for the rest of their lives. And I'm like, what a guy. Like, what just, I don't know, maybe it hits different because my baby's turns 2 months old on Monday. And so I'm in a different state of emotions right now. But yeah, really happy for him, man. He's like, I think you said it. He's very easy to root for, and I'm hoping he has a huge season with the Vikings.
Yep. He's exciting too from a football perspective because yes, he plays safety, but he also has versatility to line up in the slot as well as in linebacker spots. So he's not a linebacker. No, he's not a cornerback, but he has the versatility to kind of shift all over the field. So he's a football player, and Brian Flores really likes him for his defense. So
yeah.
Just like that, the Chiefs and the Lions' first quarter is over. Maybe it's time for us to move on to our record predictions here.
I like it, and each segment should take 15 minutes
One
of football
quarter.
time, which is like 30
We'll
minutes
be here
of
all
real
night.
life time. Yeah, we'll be here all night, folks. And we're not even live, so you can't even just put us on in the background. Let's get into the record prediction. We tweeted this out a little bit. I talked about it briefly in the Monday video while I was flying solo. Let's go quickly, not like in-depth analysis of each game because, other than Tampa Bay, we really don't know what the team... Yeah, that would take way too long. That's an off-season video if I've ever held it, and we didn't want to do it this year. So
No.
What do you... this is kind of a spoiler. Let's skip Tampa Bay. Not skip. What do you have Tampa Bay? Do you have us winning or losing?
We'll get to that one at the end. Actually, no, we have to do it because we're giving record predictions.
Yeah.
I have the Vikings beating Tampa Bay at home.
I also have them winning that one. Philadelphia on the road, short week.
I have them losing that one.
I also have them losing that one. The Chargers at home.
That's a W.
I also have that as a W. Carolina on the road. Let's say it together. W.
Win.
Win. All right. Well, we're not on the same. The chemistry will find its way back. This is the first difference. Kansas City.
This one was hard for me because, and I'll get into it later, but I went back and forth. I put this as a loss.
I put this as a W. At home, just team's going to feel different. So I have us on a 3-game winning streak. Chicago in Chicago.
I actually have this as a loss, even though at the beginning of the exercise last night, I had this as like a bolded, darkened, underlined W, and then I started to realize like Chicago on the road is never that easy. Division games are hard. It's going to be a loss. So
yeah, I have it as a loss as well.
3. Okay, at this point I have the Vikings as 3-3, which might have some Vikings Twitter fan mongrels a little bit uptight.
Yeah, so I have us at 5-2, and it's too early in the season to know anything. Hopefully we look good in the losses, but I will just spoil this really quickly. Every road division game in a schedule prediction should be penciled in as a loss. You should not assume you're just going to automatically beat your division in your division, in their house. That's just some common sense. That's just typically how records go. But San Francisco at home.
I have that as a win. Monday Night Football.
Hey, I also have that as a win. Let's go. Big game. Brock Purdy. We're going to tear us Tommy John. Oh, make him get Tommy John again or something.
Hey, that's rude.
Green Bay in Lambeau.
So, contrary to your always pick every division road game as a loss, I actually have this as a win because I'll get to it later.
All right. I have this one as a loss. Atlanta, I have as a win.
Same.
In Atlanta, by the way, I guess we should say. New Orleans at home, I have as a win.
I have that as a win. Quick aside, people are really high on the Saints. Considering, with how bad that division's going to be. Not like they're like, oh my gosh, the Saints are going to win 14 games, but I think the Saints winning that division is sort of a shoe-in a lot of people's minds. I also saw on NFL Network last night, I don't know the two folks' names, but a guy and a woman, they both predicted the Saints to make the Super Bowl. That was their Super Bowl pick,
Wow.
going up against the Chiefs. So I was not super on board with that, but
I mean, I
each
think they'll
their own, I
be. I
guess.
think they will win that division. It's going to come down to them in Atlanta, but I'm not. I'm not Super Bowl with the Saints. That's
Yeah.
pretty rich. But all right, let's see. We did New Orleans, Denver in Denver. I have that as a W.
Yeah, I do too. To me, this one was a little weird because it's like
Yeah.
Sunday night at Denver. You don't really know what Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to do, but I don't trust Denver.
They're going to be bad, and Sean Payton's going to get exposed this season. I'm
I would like
never
to
been
see
a Sean,
that.
never been a Sean Payton guy. Just maybe it's because he was also involved in Bountygate and then got a
Yes.
really funny Kevin James movie out of it that you couldn't pay me to sit down and watch. But now I'm being an old man yelling at a cloud. Let's get last game before the bye. Chicago at home. Win for me. It's a home game. Let's get it.
Yep,
Yeah.
win.
Big stinky W. Then the bye week. Late bye for the
Finally.
Vikings. And a brutal end of the schedule for the Vikings. Let's get into one of the very winnable games after the bye week. Coming in to Sin City, where hopefully the Vikings will be hoisting their first Lombardi trophy in February. This game, I think in late November, maybe December, they play Las Vegas. I have it as a W.
I do as well.
Okay. Cincinnati in Cincinnati, a game that I will be in the nosebleeds for.
I would love to see that be a win. I can't see it.
same.
And granted, we did beat Buffalo in Buffalo last year, but this has the same feel for me preseason of like, I can't see many scenarios where you win that game just because it's still the Bengals at the peaks of their powers. They still have all their guys. Burrow's contract won't have kicked in yet, and they'll still be loaded offensively. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I would argue. I have it as a loss as well. I would argue the hardest foul games on the schedule are Philadelphia, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Cincinnati. I say that because those are the championship game teams from last season.
Yep.
I have us going 2-2 against the championship games. I think that's pretty
good.
optimistic. Not even optimistic. I think that if they do that, then they kind of establish themselves as like, hey, we also should be considered in this same realm. All right, so then we come home for 2 games. We've got Detroit and then Green Bay. It's our first meeting with Detroit very late in the season. I have both of these games as wins.
I do as well.
Okay, cool. And then how do we finish in Detroit?
I think we will lose in Detroit, but it won't matter.
I also have us losing in Detroit. I do have it mattering. I didn't write down, so I wrote down in my notes like every game, like initials and then a W or an L. I don't know who the Packers got these 12 wins against, but the Packers got 12 wins when I picked their schedule. And I was just as shocked as I think everybody else would be. But I had the Vikings at 12-5. I had Green Bay at 12-5. I had Detroit at 11-6, and I had Chicago at 9-8. I think the NFC North is going to be the best division in football. The NFC and AFC North are going to compete for best divisions in football. Even our bad team is going to finish above 500. I think all 3 teams make the playoffs. I just don't know who wins the division because I wasn't going to sit down and do the tiebreakers and the head-to-heads. I had a splitting with Green Bay. So the Vikings might be a 12-5 wild card team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Spicy.
I just went through and picked them. I'm not, nothing in concrete, nothing, it doesn't really matter. But
So that's impressive that you have that level of confidence in the NFC North, especially considering last year, second place had 9 wins and 2 teams had losing records, and it was the Vikings division. They won the division in like week 14 or something. There was still 3-4 games left. I like it. So you said 12, 12, 11, and 9 for your
12,
picks?
11, 12, 12, 11, 9.
So you definitely did more of a robust experiment with the records in the NFC North than I did. I did not go game by game for the other 3 teams. It would have made this a little more complete. But here's what I think. I think the Vikings will go 12-5, like we just laid out. I guess if you weren't counting, it was 12 wins and 5 losses. I think they will win the division. I think the Detroit Lions will go 11-6. why that Week 18 game won't matter is because the Vikings will have a 2-game lead on the Lions heading into the last game, and whether they win or lose will not matter in the division race. I think third place is going to be the Bears, and I think they're going to win 8 games. And yes, I think the Green Bay Packers are going to finish last with 7 wins.
Okay, so not the 3-win disaster that I think
No.
some people are like super hyperbolic on the fall of Green Bay, and they still have Aaron Jones and they still have a young receiving core that I think is going to get better as they age, and the defense is still going to be kind of aggressive and stingy, and they're going to have a good secondary. Like I just don't see. I guess it comes down to Jordan Love, really, on whether or not they finish with like 7 wins, or if they can, finish potentially winning the division with 12 wins, or 13 wins.
I mean, what did they win last year? 8. So, I think there's also a little bit of a overreaction or an overvaluing of Aaron Rodgers last year. He was not good last year for his standards. Now, he didn't have a terrible year, but he was by no means like I don't think he made the Pro Bowl. Like he was by no means a all-pro level quarterback. He was injured a lot during the season. He had that broken thumb or something, so he was hampered. So for Jordan Love to win 7 games against Rodgers 10 from the year before, it's not even that much of a drop-off. I also just think it's hard to expect a first-year starter in the NFL to go have a great season and go, like you said, win double-digit games. It could happen because the Green Bay Packers still have some players. But even think of Rodgers' first season; it was a dumpster fire. They went like 6-10. Like they were not good. So, I think for Love to have 7-8 wins, I don't think it's necessarily going to be like end of the world. And I think a lot of Green Bay fans are probably, not okay with that. But I think they've accepted that a little bit. That this isn't necessarily going to be, the Packers of old.
Yeah, and I think that should be expected. I actually think Green Bay fans, for once, are kind of being like, hey, we might not win the division this year. Let's just hope Jordan Love looks okay. I hope he doesn't. I would rather not have to deal with the Packers being,
yes,
Hall of Fame quarterback leading the charge and, constantly winning the division, and Jordan Love ends up, doing ayahuasca retreats and sitting in dark rooms thinking about his thoughts and, all that kind of stuff. But, I like that we both have us going 12-5. I think that's an optimistic outlook. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of games on this schedule. Tampa Bay scares me. All of these games scare me. I'm terrified. I'm shaking in my boots, and it's because the last time I had expectations for this team that matched my expectations that I have right now, it was 2018. Cousins had just walked in, and I'm still not over the fact that we didn't win the Super Bowl that season, and I'm still mad at Cousins for not winning the Super Bowl that season. I don't care how bad, John D. Filippo was. I had high hopes because, I was young and spry and childless, and so now I'm a little bit more jaded, I guess. But I'm very cautiously optimistic about what they're going to do this year. Let's get into the first game. We obviously have both already said that we're going to win. We haven't done a score prediction for the game yet, so we don't know. Maybe we'll spice it up, and one of us is going to pick like a 63-0 blowout, absolute domination of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I'll let you, and this is kind of ceremonial as, we're watching Detroit and Kansas City have a slugfest right now. I will let you do the ceremonial kickoff of the LTB picks season. Also, I'm going to try to keep track of this season, and like, I'm not saying we're competing for anything, but I will. I've been known. I've been known. Hang on, give me one quick second. I've been known to buy like Super Bowl rings. Whenever I hate the green screen, I've been known to buy Super Bowl rings for fantasy football, so I will buy a pick'em belt if that's what it takes. Yes. And I'll pay to ship it up to you if that's what it takes. But I do think we should track the score predictions, and I'll try to come up with some way to make it a little bit interesting. But go ahead and kick us off with the Bucks. What do you got?
Do you want me to go score, or do you want me to go with like all my reasoning first?
Let's go with what excites us, other than the fact that, like just football is back. Let's go with, what excites us, what scares us, what we need to look out for, and then we can get into like score and reasoning a little bit after that.
Yeah, so I think first of all, a lot of people, including people that, you would consider to be savvy football minds and objective analysis or objective analysts on behalf of the Vikings are sort of laughing off the Bucks. I'm not saying the team itself. Of course, the team is not doing that. I mean, you hear everything that O'Connell, et cetera, are saying. They're talking about this team as if they're still the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. And that's how they frankly should face any opponent. Like, treat them like you should any other team. Um, but it's a little strange to me that so many people and Vikings fans are kind of not giving this team the time of day because yes, Baker Mayfield was bad last couple years, but he's also had like a torn labrum. He was playing injured, and now Baker Mayfield has never been an elite NFL quarterback, but he was the first overall pick at one point, and he has some talent. He's not a scrub. I think people laugh when they hear Baker Mayfield, but I think he's not someone that is just gonna roll over and die. He's got some fight in him, and he's kind of got a little Taylor Heineke, frankly, where undersized, kind of scrappy. His machismo is bigger than his britches, but he's uh, he's gonna put up a fight. Um, I also think the Buccaneers still have some decent skill players. Evans is, I think, a little bit over the hill. Um, Godwin is still decent. He's been injured, but he's still a good player. The defense, though, I think is maybe what gives me the most pause. Now, I think on the flip side, some people are giving the Buccaneers defense maybe a little too much credit because they have Vita Vea. Um, for those who are not aware, Vita Vea is a behemoth of a man who plays nose tackle, and um, Wes Phillips and I believe it was Matthew Collar. I don't want to misquote, but it was one of the Vikings reporters today called him a circle rather than a rectangle. He is a very large man, a very good nose tackle, and I think his presence alone gives a lot of credence to their run defense. And their run defense was fine last year, but it was sort of middle of the pack in a lot of metrics. They were better when it came to like yards per play overall and third down stops and stuff like that, some situational stuff. They were bad in the red zone though, which was a little weird. And they really didn't take the ball away a ton. So they're a defense that I think has some players. They have a lot of the guys back from that Super Bowl team still, both Levante David and Devin White,
Yeah.
linebackers, Antoine Winfield Jr. in the secondary. So they're definitely a defense that needs to be respected. I don't look at them as, the 2017 Vikings, or I'm trying to think of any other like,
2000
stout.
Ravens.
Yeah, or the Legion of Boom or anything
Oh,
like that.
any time in the last like 5 seasons, San Francisco 49ers.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're not that, but they need to be respected. They're not the 2022 Vikings defense.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's maybe the part that gives me the most quote unquote just pause is like, that they've got some players, they've got some cachet, they won a Super Bowl together. So that's kind of maybe what gives me pause. How about you? Like, what maybe you said you were shaking your boots over there. What keeps you up at night as we have 3 days until kickoff?
So I just have to first start off by saying that if you told me in 2018 that Baker Mayfield was very, very much like Taylor Heineke, I would have attacked you like a wildebeest because I was such a Baker fan. And to say he was anything other than the best prospect of all time was blasphemous to me. Baker had 2 good seasons, and then he was banged up or had clown coaching like the rest of the time. And so I don't want to again, like you said, a lot of discounting of Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do think that their defense is really the ultimate matchup. Two names you left out: Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean. They're actual
Yeah.
true cornerbacks who are
Yep.
very
Yep.
good defensive backs. And the fact that they didn't have a ton of turnovers last season kind of scares me because turnovers are so wonky that
Yep.
I feel like if you have a down year, you almost immediately have a very up year if you have talent on your defense. And so, I wrote down a bunch of the names. I won't go through all of them. They did get my draft crush, Kalijah Cansey, in the draft, and
Yes, they
he's
did.
questionable. And so we'll see if he ends up actually playing. The Lions just fumbled in the red zone. Haha.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. My wife says I probably have ADHD. We'll see about it. But anyway, they got Antoine Winfield, and I think he's gonna be stingy for the defense. But I think what it comes down to is the Vikings defense needs to show up, and
Yep.
they need to have a very good first impression on the NFL landscape and on the NFL media and everything. They need to have Baker Mayfield confused. They need to have him running for his life. And that's one thing that Baker Mayfield is used to, but did not succeed with, is he's used to running for his life, but he doesn't usually succeed when he's running for his life. So I would like to see a lot of Ivan Pace. I would like to see a lot of, Josh Metellus off the edge. I would like to see a lot of creative blitzes, a lot of movement, a lot of disguising. And basically just the Vikings, Brian Flores putting on a masterclass on how to confuse a non-elite quarterback. And
Yep.
I like that you brought up that the wide receivers in the skill positions are kind of aging, but they're still good. I think Mike Evans, he's never had less than 1,000 yards in a season. So he's old, but he's still talented. He showed last year he still has some gas in the tank. And, he might not be an every down dominant receiver anymore, but he's still gonna get his a couple times a game. It's the first game of the year, and so you wonder, how healthy is Chris Godwin gonna be? And I mean, probably at 100% for this game at least. And then they've got the running back Rashad White, who fantasy football people love. Not this year, but they loved him last year. They thought he was very shifty and very dangerous. So it kind of feels like this is a graveyard that Tom Brady, the offensive side of the ball, is a graveyard that Tom Brady abandoned in his retirement. But it kind of feels like a spooky skeleton attack graveyard where it's there is still danger in this graveyard.
Yeah.
It's not let's go in here and bully the Bucks. It is there's a lot to be concerned about, I think, but. And this, we can start getting into skull predictions. Do you have something?
I have a question. Who do you think now I don't necessarily think the Vikings are going to put one cornerback on Evans the whole game, but if there was one that, covered him most of the game, who do you think it would be and who do you think it should be?
Oh man, that's a good question because it won't be.
Because he's really tall.
Yes, he's very tall, but he's not. He's not really a slot guy, right? He's always kind of been a traditional outside receiver, so I feel like it's not going to be Byron Murphy. And Byron, that's the unfortunate part, is our number one corner is mainly a slot guy, and so if we are in anything other than, a base defense, if you will, we're going to be seeing Byron Murphy in the slot. And so, I mean, is it Mekhi Blackman or Caleb Evans? Is it one of these guys that's going to line up across from a very tall wide receiver? That is kind of scary. But
yeah,
a Caleb Evans being on him, to me, I kind of like the matchup almost because Evans is physical, man. He's big and he gets handsy and he's handsy at the line and he gets off of guys by pushing them around a little bit. A Caleb Evans isn't going to take it lying down. A Caleb Evans is going to fight back and he's going to try to hit back a couple of times, and so Caleb Evans might be my pick for who goes up against him. Of course, this is when Byron Murphy is on the inside, anyways.
You said the same thing I would have said too. I think in some ways, if you had to pick one guy for the whole game, I kind of think you have to pick Caleb Evans. Partly also because I'd like to see Chris Godwin covered by Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
Again, with Flores and his shifting looks and changing schemes and flexible packages, you're not going to see the same guy lining up against the same guy for 70 snaps. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But it's a curious thought exercise because I think this is going to be a sort of issue for the Vikings all season, and partly probably why Flores being the man for the job is the right one.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I will say, when you're talking about the defensive backs, I think that the key to this Flores defense is who cares who is covering Mike Evans. It's hard to throw it, to Mike Evans on a streak if you're running backwards because you have a middle linebacker chasing you, or you have Danielle Hunter coming off the edge, running you down or hitting you from behind, if he lines up, at the blind side. And so I think that's the key to the Flores defense is we need the pass rush, whether it be from blitzing or whether it just be, Davenport and Danielle off the edge. We need the pass rush to be there heavily. And that's going to be a key in every game, I think, is how does the pass rush do? Because the pass rush is going to have to make up for a lack of depth and experience in the secondary.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to have to. It's definitely going to have to. And
I have the Vikings. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep cutting.
I was just gonna say, no, you're good. And one just last thing on this, I think, with the Bucks offensive line, I don't think it's necessarily a juggernaut right now. Tristan Wirfs is great, but other than that, it's been a lot of moving parts. I think Tom Brady's center retired with him, and I could be mistaken on that, but their line is just it's not what it was, 2-3 years ago, and so it's a situation where, and they struggled last year even. They were not a very good offensive line last year. They were about middle of the pack in running offense and bottom of the pack in passing offense or passing protection. So
right,
it's definitely not a strength of the Buccaneers. And so if our pass rush can get home, it makes everything much easier for that sort of unproven secondary. So.
Yeah, I like it. I've got the Vikings taken. We've both said, obviously, and we won't spoil it so early in the show, but we've both said the Vikings are winning this game. I wonder what the difference in points is going to be for you anyway, but my difference in points is going to be, I'm going to go 34-17. I'm going to say a 3-possession victory, technically, by a point, but a 17-point victory for me. I think this offense is going to be different this season. I have a whole shtick about the interior offensive line and how if it can hold its own even a little bit this season, this Vikings offense is going to go down with like the 98s and the 2000s, and this is gonna be like I'm gonna tell my daughter's sons about back in my day, Kirk Cousins was throwing dimes to Jordan Addison, Hall of Famer, Justin Jefferson, Hall of Famer, T.J. Hawkinson, Hall of Famer. Like, this offense just, oh my God, it feels like a Lamborghini, man. It feels like it just feels like, who's stopping
Unintended?
A little bit. It feels like a 150-mile-per-hour joyride. Because my dog's sick, man. And legitimately, though, I think this team is going to score north of 30 a lot this season. And I think the defense we'll see how good they can be at holding them back. Looks like Will froze up a little bit. So I said, let's see, what did I say? I'll go ahead and do my game ball until we're able to get Will back here. I joke about Hall of Famers and everything. My game ball is going to go to the man who we talked about to open this show up. And that's T.J. Hawkinson. T.J. Hawkinson, I think, is going for $120. He's going to catch 2 touchdowns, and I think he's going to establish himself as the second best tight end in the league this season. And the second Travis Kelce retires, I think it's going to be no doubt T.J. Hawkinson. This is your tight end league now. Take the torch. There will be a pass. Maybe this week. What is it? Week 4 that we play Kansas City. That could be a passing of the touch game from Kelce to Hawk. I just think he's going to go off. Did you catch everything that I said?
Just a smidge. I caught the Hawk game ball. I
Okay.
caught the 34-17. I thought
Okay.
you said they're gonna go north of 30 a lot. Yeah, I
Okay.
caught
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
You got it all. You got what mattered. So yeah, that's my game ball. That's my skull prediction. I'll pass it off to you.
Awesome. I'm a little bit more conservative with my offensive hype. I'm gonna go 26-16 Vikings. Um, I just I just think week one it's not going necessarily going to be a joyride. The offense looked awesome last year in week one against Green Bay for about 2/3 of that game. Then they kind of stalled at the end. Part of that was the score and just you don't really there's a lot of running at the end of that game and
Yeah.
just kind of milking clock. But um, I think the Tampa defense will put up a fight. I'm still not convinced about our interior offensive line, and with Vita Vea inside, I think that could cause problems for both the run game and the pass game. And if Garrett Bradbury can't block him, it could be a more uncomfortable day. So I could see it being, a couple touchdowns and a few long Greg Joseph field goals to chalk the points up. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be a game where Vikings fans are going to be, biting their nails for the entire game. I think it will be competitive. I don't think it's going to be like a just walk in the park. I think the Bucks are going to bring fight and all that, like I said earlier, but I think just the combination of all those things, the better players offensively for sure, and Flores, doing his work against a new unit with a quarterback who hasn't had a ton of success, at least recently. I think it should be a Vikings win. I also think you throw in the added intangibles of week one at home, Bud Grant Day, classic uniforms, kind of the whole dog and pony show around it. I think it's going to be a lot for the Buccaneers to be able to keep up with. And I think the energy is going to be so on the Vikings side that it's going to be a hard game for Tampa to win. If this game was played in Tampa Bay, I might feel a little bit differently, but I don't think it's going to be this sort of smashing that a lot of people are saying. I don't think the Bucks are necessarily tanking like people have made them out to. They're not the
Right.
Cardinals. They're not giving this season away. Um, so that's what I got. 26-16
I love it.
Vikings.
I love it. Let me really quickly try to get a question out of you. Oh, get an answer out of you. I'll pose you a question quickly. We did a record prediction earlier in this show, so I would like. I almost said this in a very strict way, like I was your parent or something. But I'm gonna ask you this question, and then feel free to give your final thoughts, and then we'll I think get out of here. So we both have them going 12-5. How's the season end? Yeah, it's a thinko.
It's so hard because of the defense. if the defense is competent, I would not be shocked if this team made it to the NFC Championship game. I know that sounds hyperbolic. Like I know it makes me sound like a homer, but as I was going through the schedule last night, I was honestly like, I can't find more than 4 losses. And it's not because I think the Vikings are just better than everyone. It's just because I think they can compete with everyone. I think they have a favorable schedule when it comes to home games against good teams. Primetime games, they have 3 at home, only 2 on the road. I just think a lot of sort of the unspoken things about the schedule fall in the Vikings' favor. The NFC South is going to be bad. The AFC West is a question mark, but it's not necessarily going to be a world-beating 4-game gauntlet that they have to go through, apart from the Chiefs, and who knows what the Chargers are every year.
Right.
But I don't know. I looked at their schedule and I had a hard time finding like a 5th or a 6th loss. And so all that said, I think this is going to be a really good team. I And I'm trying not to, drink the Kool-Aid of the 13-win improbable season of last year, but I have a hard time believing that Brian Flores is not going to make something more out of this defense. And they got faster. They also got younger, which means less experience. So that comes with risks. But I see this team being more middle of the pack defensively. And I don't know. The NFC's weak, man. You look at a lot of the projections, it's sort of like Eagles, Niners, and then Lions is kind of what people are saying. I think the Lions, according to like some Vegas odds, are like the fourth best odds to win the NFC, third best maybe. And it's just wild because there's just not a whole lot of great NFC teams. So I think the ceiling is probably, ceiling, they could win a Super Bowl. I think this team could win a Super Bowl, but the defense is such a question mark that I would never predict that.
Yeah.
I think they win one playoff game. I think they
Okay.
win the wild card game, and I think they lose in the divisional. I don't think they're going to get a bye, but I wouldn't be shocked if they made the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think is that final thoughts? Are you good?
Yeah, it's good enough.
All right. So I had to get into character for my final thoughts. I special requested the final thoughts, like the final thoughts, the true conclusion of the Puy game, the Puy Week 1 show, be given by me. And I put on my two. You can't see them because my stupid camera. Maybe if I touch them to my face or something.
There we go.
There it is. My 2 Super Bowl rings that I won for winning fantasy football games. And so I put it on because I needed to be a little bit cocky. I needed to be a little bit overestimated, and I think it's fitting that your prediction is they will win a playoff game because you are in a Vikings hat, and then what I'm assuming is a very cool T-shirt. No, just red. Well, either way. Very, very nice, very dapper. I think it's fitting that now it is time to talk to the guy who's wearing the Vikings hat and the Vikings, quarter zip, and underneath it all, an NKU hoodie because I went there for college, but they're the Norsemen, so they're kind of Viking related. So yeah, I think it's fitting that I'm Vikingsed out from the head to the toes, and so I'm addressing these final thoughts, and I doubt that they will be seen by even 100 people. But if this is seen by 100 people, I hope 3 of them are Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, and Ed Ingram. Because, boys, I got to talk to you. Mano y mano, fat guy to fat guy. Because the Vikings have had so many good teams over the years, and we've had so much heartbreak and pain, and, different pain than, the Lions, or different pain than the Browns. It's not losing that causes us heartbreak. It's when we choose to lose. We are, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the most successful team in all of sports that's never won a championship. And so those 3, what, is that true?
I think you're right. I think in terms of winning percentage and division titles and things, yeah.
Yeah. So never won a championship. We win all the time. We're consistently in the mix. We never finish it off for one reason or another. Whether it's 38-7, whether it's Brett Favre thrown across his body, whether it's Anderson missing the kick, whether it's no showing the Giants game in 2000, all of the Super Bowls in the 70s. All right, I just want to point out a little bit of motivation for the big guys in the middle of the O-line. Okay, because here's what's going to happen if you show up week in and week out this season and you do your jobs and you do them very well. The national media is going to give all of the credit to Brian Flores coaching the defense up to being a top 16-ish unit. They're going to give credit to Jefferson, should he be the MVP, Cousins, can he do it in the playoffs. They're going to talk about everything except for you guys and your tackle brethren. But you look at how this roster's been constructed, and you've got Justin Jefferson, the best in the league. TJ Hawkinson may be the best in the league. Jordan Addison, who I believe is going to win the Rookie of the Year this year. And KJ Osborne, who has gotten better, I said this earlier, gotten better every year he's been in the league. Kirk Cousins has proved one thing to me in his time in Minnesota. If he's got the time, he'll drop the dime. Coined that one myself. He needs to be protected to make this offense go, to make this offense flourish. And yeah, Brian Flores is going to have to do some miracles with the defense. Brian Flores is going to have to tone that around into a top half of the league unit for us to really have the success. But if you are able to do it, there's going to be guys like me, and I'm sure guys like Will, and guys like FOMO, co-host of the show, Jack Day's father, Tom Day, who we named an Offensive Lineman of the Week award after for one point in this show's history. There's going to be guys like my dad who sat me down when I was a boy and explained to me that for all of the Fan Talkingtons and the Purple People Eaters, all of the Chris Cowders and the Mosses and the Diggs and the Thielens and the Butt Favres, Dante Culpeppers, all these guys, none of it would have mattered if it wasn't, and here we go. This is just to get my father hyped. If it wasn't for Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson, Mike Tinglehoff, something Stussy, I can't remember his first name, Curry Stringer, God rest his soul. Even in 17, we saw career years out of guys like Riley Reef, Nick Easton, Pat Elflein, Joe Bergeron, and Mike Ramos. No one's going to remember your name except for the diehard fans of the Minnesota Vikings. And that's why I'm predicting the Minnesota Vikings are winning the damn Super Bowl in 2023, because the line's going to step up. The line's going to protect Coke. This is going to be the best offense in Vikings history. I think I already said Addison's winning Rookie of the Year. Did I already point that out? Yeah. So there you have it. That's it. That's the final thoughts. It's all up to the interior offensive line, in my opinion. I think the defense is going to take care of itself. I think it's young, it's fast, and it's well coached. Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram. The ball is in your court. Do you have anything else, or can do we get out with that?
We're good.
All right. Well,
talk to you guys next week.
Talk to you guys next week. Skol, y'all.